And so some of our leaders in the Congress belong in a museum of natural history.
I won't. Oh my goodness, you're too much. Thank you, Reverend Jackson. You're bringing it. Listen, everybody. In April 2017, 59% of Democrats said that they wanted. You heard me. 2017, in April of 2017, 59% of Democrats said they wanted congressional Democrats to make compromises with Trump to gain consensus on legislation. That was during his first term, right? With only 33% saying the Dems should stick to their positions, even if that means not being able to get things done in Washington. Guess what the new polls say? They say the new polls, 65% of all Democratic voters say that they want the Democrats to have a backbone to stick to their guns. 65%. So they want them to stick to their guns. And only 32% say that they want some kind of compromise. People, what does it mean, Reverend Jackson, when the people are ahead of the leadership of the party? What does that tell you?
Well, what it means in 2017 is they thought they could work with Donald Trump.
Right.
What it means in 2025 is they know that you cannot work with this guy, and therefore they want everything that we can do to stop him from destroying the democracy and undermining our way of life. That's what it says. Now, the problem is Charles Schumer has not been on this Ignite the Fire show where y'all can break down for him what the difference between how people felt in 2017 and the way they feel today about this guy and what he is capable of. And so that number right there is going to keep going up as the Painbow Coalition continues to expand. The Painbow Coalition. And when this thing hits your economy, when it hits the quality of your life, when your home is the one on the market. I read somewhere, I can't remember what president it was, maybe it was Harry Truman. He said a recession is when your neighbor loses his job. A depression is when you lose yours.
Right.
So all of our neighbors are experiencing a recession.
Yes.
Now, it will become a depression when you lose your stuff.
Right.
And you will be depressed through no fault of your own.
Through some fault of your own, because some people, they voted the wrong way when they had a choice. And, of course, we're nonpartisan. We're not going to say who people should have voted, but we're saying you should have voted better because let's be clear, folks, that every time I turn on the news. Are you paying attention to these town hall meetings? Are you paying attention to these town hall meetings? Yes.
Are you watching these Republicans stand there and their constituents are all white telling them, you didn't tell me you were doing this?
Well, the one I loved is the other day. Which one was that, Daryl?
The guy with the beard.
Jackson?
Yeah.
Yes, where he was saying, I support the president. And they started booing and heckling, and he looked like he was about to run away. Folks, we're in a very unusual era. Some people call these tumultuous times. Other people call these treacherous times because they're dangerous, especially when you look at what's happening in Ukraine and what's happening in Gaza right now. They have, really horrific consequences, and the lack of USAID. And folks, watch out, your health care. Watch out, not only is Medicaid in danger, be very clear that also all of these cuts to research and disease prevention, they're going to also show up in your neighborhoods. But also, everyone, please watch what's going on with Social Security. For the 70 million people who depend on Social Security, watch the hidden changes that they are making right now to Social Security so that people won't be able to get their checks. You have to keep your eyes on all of this, right, Reverend Jackson? You can't just say, I'm only going to concentrate on one thing. You got to look at everything that's happening because it's all interdependent, right? The federal government's not just one agency, it's all of those agencies.
Absolutely. And if you don't feel it from the federal government, you're going to feel it as the burden gets shifted to these states to pay for education, to pay for health care, to pay for housing. And when your property taxes start going up, you're even going to want to blame local government for that because you have no idea the extent to which the federal government and your federal taxes actually come back to you lifting the burden off of the states from taxing, from demanding, from more state regulations, by the way, which far exceed anything the federal government has ever done.
Ooh, I knew this hour was going to go fast, Daryl. I knew it.
It really is. And Barbara, we can't let the hour go by without asking the congressman, the way out. I mean, obviously, we can't bury our heads in the sand and wish it away. That's not going to happen. What do you see as the way out of the mess that we find ourselves in now?
So what I can tell you is in 2001, when the late Frank Watkins, my communication director who worked with my father for 40 years, and I wrote a book called A More Perfect Union. The way out of this is with a goal that is so big that it is nearly unobtainable. But it is a goal that we have to reach in every single generation without ever taking our eyes off of the prize. We fight for legislation as Democrats. We don't fight for constitutional amendments. And the day that we took our eyes off of the Constitution is the day that we ended up in a political game that is dispiriting, that takes away our hope and gives us no long-term strategy for what is right. What I fundamentally believe for both you and Barbara is that you are human beings, that you are endowed by certain inalienable rights that among them are life, liberty, and happiness. What I fundamentally believe is that both you and Barbara deserve health care of equal high quality. When do you want it? Well, you want it when you need it. At the healthiest moments of your life, you don't need it. At the moments that you are the sickest in your life, you do need it. But what has to be there to ensure that when Barbara is in a low period, or Daryl, when you are in a low period, or when I'm in a low period, that it is there? Well, it's called the constitutional right to health care of equal high quality. I must be able to turn to the Constitution to get my health care, not to my state, not to my county, not to a piece of legislation that may or may not expire or that Congress doesn't fund. It must be as fundamental as someone else who says, I've got a constitutional right to carry my gun. Well, if you've got a constitutional right to a gun, then why don't we finish the business of the Constitution so that after you shoot me, and if I survive it, I have the constitutional right to the best high-quality health care to get repaired that I can possibly get. We need the constitutional right in the Constitution, not just fighting for the Affordable Care Act or fighting for one more piece of legislation. Those are steps along the journey to the fulfillment of God's promise for you, and that is your fundamental right to be protected in terms of health. And let me close on this: when we were born into this world, we were born free. We were not born into slavery, but we were. And the only way out of slavery, unlike Jewish people, who Moses could go before Pharaoh and say, let my people go. He could make a moral argument. But the only way out of American slavery is to change the Constitution of the United States, including the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments and equal protection of the laws. That's what black people have been given. The only way out of unfreedom is to change the Constitution. And we ought to focus on the 2/3 of the Congress we need, the 3/4 of the states that we need, and that's going to moderate our language, because we're going to recognize somewhere on that road that we need white folks and Hispanic folks and brown folks And they don't all have to be in a paintball coalition, but they have to be in a rainbow coalition because we're not in Oklahoma, Nebraska, and Arizona and other places where we need them to help us guarantee their God-given rights. That's what I got for you, and that's all the hope I can give. All I hope I can give to you. And then I hope you had a big amen to the end of it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Daryl, as we close in these final minutes, I just want everybody to know something that just happened that's important since we've been on the show in the last, I think, 10 to 15 minutes. It just happened. You probably know that Elon Musk has been misusing his Twitter X to tweet all kind of evil and misinformation, and to rile up people and keep on doing racial division and anti-DEI and the rest of it. But one thing he's been recently doing is that he has been latching out at judges. And more than 30 posts on X calling them corrupt, radical, and evil after they dealt the Doge legal blows for all this unconstitutional and illegal actions they've been engaging in. And he has also said that he wants, many of those judges impeached because, remember, the only reason why Elon Musk is in Doge is that he's there to get rid of those regulators. He doesn't want anybody regulating SpaceX. He doesn't want anybody regulating Tesla. He doesn't want anybody regulating all of his other interests. So he's trying to get rid of the federal government so that he can't be regulated, so he can do all kind of evil. But one thing that just happened is Chief Justice John Roberts just gave a public speech, and he publicly stated that he rebukes all people calling on federal judges to be impeached, that he's opposed to that. So the ranks will continue to fracture as the people get more and more radical and extreme, Daryl. And once again, folks, please, we want to see you keep fighting in the courts. We are going to keep fighting. We're going to fight in the streets. We're going to have boycotts, economic fasting. We're going to be at town halls, and we're going to see you on April 5th. Daryl.
We're so appreciative for Congressman Jesse Jackson Jr., former Congressman Jesse Jackson Jr., for being with us here today. Thank you so much, Congress. Folks, be certain to catch the Jesse Jackson Jr. show on KBLA Radio Talk 1580. You do not want to miss his show, just an outstanding show. Look, folks, you've heard it. We've laid it all out. I'm going to tell you, like we always tell you, you're not going to ride Ferrio's chariot to freedom. You're going to have to get in the streets and do it yourself and work for it yourself. It's time to get off the sidewalks, get into the streets, and demand that the Democratic Party and that all those that fit your interests stay in there and stay in the fight. Until next Tuesday, noon, Eastern Standard Time, peace, everybody.
Yes, fine.
Thank you all for having me.
Fine, Congress. Thank you.
Thank you all for having me.
Thank you for being on. You're wonderful.
Bye-bye.
The preceding program was paid for by Barbara Arnwine.
I'm Tumani. When I was younger, I may have did some stupid things. I committed some crimes, even got shot, but I'm not a criminal.
That's right. I'm Jamal. I work for Youth Advocate Programs, YAP. I was Tumani's advocate, helping him stay out of jail, stay in the neighborhood, get a job, and work hard to see a better future for himself. If you have a change of mindset, you can have a change of action.
As a little kid, I experienced trauma and I acted out. Made some mistakes, but I'm not a mistake.
No, she's a good student and a great kid. As Jalen's YAP advocate, I'm always here for her. With the Youth Advocate Programs, I was able to connect with Jalen.
YAP is a community-based alternative to youth incarceration, congregate placement, and neighborhood violence. After completing our program, 86% of participants were arrest-free. YAP works.
And now, I'm a YAP advocate, helping kids like me find a better way.
Youth Advocate Programs. Others talk social change. We make it happen. Learn how at yapinc.org.
News Talk 1450 and 95.9 WOL with the Carl Nelson Show. 1450 WOL, Washington, D.C. 95.9 W240DJ, WMMJ HD3, WDCJ FM HD3, and worldwide at WOLDCnews.com.
The views and opinions of the following show do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions.